bringing Vancouver Island to you. This is CHEK News.
Hello, I'm Dana Hutchings. On December 1st, 1956, BC's first private television station, CHEK TV, signed on the air. And in the years following, our news crews have been all over the island and all around the world. Here's a look back at some of our favorite stories.
One of my favorite stories, it's a little bit selfish because it was an opportunity to be on the water, which is rare for many of us here in the newsroom. A lot of us end up spending a lot of the day inside on the computer, writing up copy and working on the news. So this was a chance actually to be around the folks who put their lives on the line, trying to save our lives in the southern waters around Vancouver Island. Take a look.
Get overboard! Starboard side! Starboard side!
It happens in seconds.
Dead ahead.
There's no time to lose.
Anything beside him, or is he seems to be all right? We'll have a starboard side pickup.
What happens on this boat is a matter of life and death. But this time, fortunately, it's just a practice.
Good.
Oak Bay Sea Rescue, a 40-member volunteer unit, is out on the water today training.
And both of you'd have a knee right up against the tubes in order to brace yourself.
And they have to be ready for anything.
It can be pretty snotty out here at times with 15, 20-foot waves and going to rescue somebody who's in trouble.
And trouble is not hard to find in these waters. The summer hasn't even started, and already there's been several marine distress calls. From overturned kayaks to submerged cars, it's a busy time and dangerous work. But for these guys, it's just part of the job.
Our training that we do a fair extensive amount of training, and that makes us ready for those situations.
Even with all the training, there's still a rush from the job.
Exhilarating. Yeah, when I got the pager beep, it was it was fun. It was like I was on SWAT there. So yeah, it was good.
And it's not just these waters off of Oak Bay that the auxiliary has to cover. Sometimes they get calls that take them all the way to the States.
If you look over there, there's Juan de Fuca. It's only 8 miles away, and we're the nearest response to anything that happens over on San Juan Island. And because their nearest Coast Guard base is either in Bellingham or Port Angeles, and we can get over there a lot quicker than they can.
Oak Bay Sea Rescue runs on people's donations and time. If you're looking to help or volunteer, you can go to their website, obsr.ca, for more information.
I'm Dave Ochmanic. I'm a designer animator here at CHEK. One of my favorite projects over the years was to create the animated CHEK IDs. I tried to relate many of these to life on the West Coast, whether that was relating to weather or BC ferries. There wasn't a lot of time to create these, as it was only a small part of my job function, but that sort of made them look a little unpolished, which seemed to work well with the hand-drawn look of the logo.
Sometimes a story just tugs at your heartstrings, and for me, that story is of Brandon Williams. He was 6 years old in 2006 when he was run over by a semi-truck. And in the months and years following, we followed his progress to see him recover. It's a story that absolutely amazes me.
Uh-oh. Slippery. Oh!
Brothers playing in what's left of the snow while their parents look on. It happens every day, a seemingly ordinary event. But not for this family.
I'm really glad that he's recovering as well as he is, and just thankful.
This is Brandon Williams, a boy who 6 months ago many didn't expect would survive. While walking to school with his pregnant mother and 3 siblings last May, a semi-truck ran over the 6-year-old, pinning him under the wheels. His lower body crushed, one lung collapsed, and his face shredded by the pavement. He was put into a medically induced coma to escape the pain.
You just keep winning.
When we visited Brandon 1 month later in hospital, his recovery already proving to be remarkable. While the 6-year-old didn't talk much, Brandon was sitting up playing video games, a significant improvement. But walking and talking, still only a parent's dream.
Well, when I first saw him, came up on the accident, like I was worried that he wouldn't walk, let alone survive kind of thing. And it's just amazing, his recovery. Like, he reminds me of a young deer when he prances around sometimes. So.
Whether it's prancing around or watching his favorite movie, Cars, the little boy is not only walking again, he's laughing and smiling too.
Bradley Goofy.
Bradley's goofy. What's Nadine?
Pleasure to meet you. Good luck to you.
Nadine Goofy.
Nadine's goofy. While there are happy times for the family, the long road to recovery, physically and emotionally, isn't over.
I'm starting to cry about it now a little bit. Sees his legs scarred up and sees the big trucks going by us and he's scared.
Despite the challenges, the family is now hopeful and looking forward to Christmas. Brandon wants a computer, and he gave us a little help in seeing what his brothers and sisters want.
What do you want for Christmas? What do you want for Christmas, Bradley?
This family is now smiling. Their biggest Christmas wish has been answered, and Brandon Williams has a special wish for all this holiday season.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
One of the memorable stories I could remember working at CHEK is one weekend I was working as a cameraman, and I got called to rush down to the legislature, and I met up with Dennis Moore there, another cameraman, and we discovered that we were doing some videotaping of the first raid on the legislatures.
A team of police officers enter the legislature. Marching down the corridors of power, they execute search warrants at the offices of the Ministry of Finance and Transportation. The offices belong to David Bazey, former Finance Minister Gary Collins' assistant, and Bob Burke, who then worked for Transportation Minister Judith Reed. Police cart out box after box of documents, 30 in all. And as the images are shown on television, speculation begins to rise and rumors start to fly about the nature of the raid.
There were searches conducted at the legislature in 2 offices, and there were searches conducted at approximately 6 other locations in the Victoria area.
Immediately after, Bazey was fired and Burke suspended. The search warrants are sealed, meaning the reasons for entering the ledge are kept under wraps. The media fight to get a look at them, but William Berardino, appointed as special prosecutor to handle the case, argues against it.
Well, the favorite story that I picked was a story about this woman who had been on the streets for 8 years, and she was finally getting a home, and she was just so excited that these people at our place cared enough to give her a home that she was just overwhelmed when we went to interview her. It was really amazing, and after we did the story, we caught up with her about 6 months later, a year later, and each time she said that, so many people who had been in jail had seen the story and told her that seeing her on the news gave them hope.
Okay, then we're just going to go down to the other end of the hall.
Smells nice and clean.
Yeah.
Not like park and stairwells.
After 8 years of sleeping outdoors, Janelda is moving inside.
So the way this works, it's like a hotel system.
Okay, well, I haven't stayed too many of those the last couple of years.
Yeah, so I'll show you how to do it.
She is one of a select few to win a room of her own in Our Place supportive housing.
We'll have to do it one more time.
Ah, it turns green when it turns
There
stone.
you go.
We got a walk light. Ooh. Ooh, I like it. I've been waiting to do a lot of work on myself, and I have to be inside to do it.
At 48, Janelda is a survivor. Years of drug addiction and hard living on the streets have taken their toll. Her health worsened by several falls and hits on the head that have reduced her to just under 4 feet tall. But she's ready to rise above her shrunken stature.
And some people pretend they don't see that, and that hurts me bad. I don't think people realize how much it hurts to them to pretend they didn't see you at all or hear you. I want to be someone that can look up to. And that they know that I'm strong enough to handle it.
And then you're going to have your own shower?
Along with 44 of the city's hardest to house, Janelda has been given a recipe for change. Her own bathroom, bed, and round-the-clock support from staff, including a doctor, nurse, and drug counselor.
You want to sit in the bed?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a heartwarming experience because we really didn't know whether she would make it alive by the time we were able to offer her a room.
It's baby steps. It's, you know, it's all those things. We have to be patient, and that works. It does. It's going to take a while.
Oh, there's my favorite, candy.
With a gift bag to guide her along the difficult road ahead, Janelda is determined to be an inspiration for the friends she left on the street.
I believe if you can't make your pain useful, then the bad guys win. I cut back on any drug use in a major way. I don't know how to talk about that to people, but I want to be accepted for who I am now.
I've never had a huge desire to fly planes, but living in Comox, you can't help but get the aviation buzz every spring when the Snowbirds come to train. And this year, when the world-famous aerobatic team offered me a ride, well, I couldn't say no.
When I talk about deploying your seat pack, this will be the yellow handle that I'm referring to.
It's all serious business as we're acquainted with our parachute, personal flotation device, and inflatable life raft. I attend a pre-flight meeting with all the pilots and flight crew. I meet my own pilot, that's Captain Brett Glazier on the right from Halifax. It reassures me, I think, that he seems so nonchalant. I guess it's just another day in the office for these guys. And now I'm just minutes from the experience of a lifetime. I move down the tarmac looking for my ride, a shiny red and white CT-114 Tudor. Okay, so here we are about 20 minutes from the flight. I get lucky number 7. I hope that's lucky. I'm told it's a really benign flight. We won't be doing the real Snowbird routine, so that's probably a good thing. I do have, they call it a boarding pass. I call it a vomit bag. It's in there waiting, so let's go. It's time to fly. A member of the flight crew makes sure I'm buckled in like I should be. Nothing's left to chance. And soon Captain Glazer and I are taxiing out to the runway with 8 other Snowbirds, an F-86 Sabre Golden Hawk, and an F-18. But just as my excitement begins to peak, Pilot Glazer sobers me up with some last-minute instructions.
On takeoff, it's the most critical time, Dean. If I say prepare to abandon aircraft, I need you to take that camera and throw it up front, lean back, and pull the handles. Okay?
Yeah.
You know where to find the ejection handles,
I do, yes.
Okay.
And remember what I said about leaving nothing to chance? This bit of business from another pilot just before takeoff.
1, 2. Go ahead. Yeah, just want to open up the canopy for a sec to get rid of a bug. Cleared.
Finally, it's down the runway and off we go.
We have chicks in tow, we'll have tigers on board. What do you say? And now foreplay. Let's spark up these barking dogs and bring it old school.
When we get in the air, the formation is loose, but I still marvel at the skill of these pilots. And when we get really close, we're right under the tail of another plane and just a few feet off the wing of another. And did I mention how windy it is up here today?
It always looks so graceful from the ground, eh?
Yeah, no kidding.
It's freaking violent up here.
It's a little bumpy.
Yeah.
Our flight takes us out across the Comox Glacier, and I begin to realize really fast how really good these pilots are. And notice that mine never looks forward. Instead, he's always looking out across his right wing.
The boss is the one with the number 1 on it? Yeah, the best thing you can do is keep your eyes focused on number 1 jet and just try and match everything he does and not react to the guys that are around us.
On a picture-perfect day, it's a picture-perfect flight. And as these red and white machines with their Canadian flag zip over BC mountaintops, you can't help but feel a little patriotic. That is the real point here after all, but it's not a feeling you have to be in the cockpit to get. The Snowbirds will be showing their stuff and their pride at air shows across North America this summer.
Here's the deal. I'm an aviation buff. I love airplanes, and old airplanes are fascinating, especially Second World War stuff. I know before your time, probably, before my time too. But I found out that out at the Victoria Airport, they're restoring an old de Havilland Mosquito, one of the twin-engine fighter bomber things they had in the Second World War. Well, they made thousands of them in Canada and Britain and the United States during the war. None of them fly today. There are a number on static display around the world, but none of them are in flying condition. This one at the airport's being restored to flying condition at, well, I wasn't supposed to mention the price, but it's like a lot of money. And I thought, I got to go out and do a story on that.
The story of the DH-98, or Mosquito, is one of brilliant success. Intruder, long-range day fighter, day and night bomber.
De Havilland Aircraft's plywood fighter bomber, the Mosquito, is a legendary aircraft from the Second World War. During the war, thousands of Mosquitoes were built, but none of them are airworthy. Until now. In the Victoria Air Maintenance hangar at YYJ, Mike Ingram and his crew are doing a 100% restoration of one of these Canadian-made classics. How many Mosquitoes have you rebuilt?
This is the only one.
Well, how do you know if you're doing it right?
Look at the book.
Victoria Air Maintenance has been restoring old warbirds for 30 years now, turning out fully airworthy fighters and trainers for private owners, but this aircraft is clearly very special. So the plane's mostly wood.
It's all wood.
It's made by carpenters rather than sheet metal workers?
Furniture makers and boat builders.
Is that right? Well, I understand there's a furniture maker's stamp on the spar.
There is. On the wing spar was made by an actual schoolhouse furniture maker in England.
But this is not a spruce Goose. Those old Rolls Merlin engines, which will be overhauled and refitted in the aircraft, push the Mosquito along to 400 miles an hour. Mike, how big a project is this?
It's about a 2-year project from start to finish.
It doesn't look like it'd be inexpensive.
It's not inexpensive. This kind of project's only for the well-heeled.
Really? Now this is going to a private owner, this plane.
A private owner in Vancouver.
And as all history buffs know, the Mosquito was one of the aircraft the legendary Dam Busters unit used during the war.
It was. They dropped 500-pound special-built dam buster bombs from it.
It skipped across the water and blew up those German dams.
That's what it did.
Damn. So this plane was pretty powerful.
Very powerful.
Even though it's made of wood veneer and balsa wood.
Yeah, it's powerful and strong. The wing spars were built from Sitka spruce that came from the Queen Charlotte Islands.
An aircraft with an incredible history, a West Coast connection, and one you may see cruising the skies around here pretty soon. Although you'll surely hear those Rolls-Royce engines long before you see the plane.
One of my favorite stories is from 1992 when a Canadian was invited to Paris, France to Notre Dame Cathedral to revive the singing of sacred music. This was edited at a time when digital editing didn't exist in newsrooms. If you wanted to dissolve from one tape to another, you had to physically edit half the shots on one tape, then half the shots on another, use an entire control room to edit back and forth between the two to achieve the finished product. It was a lot of work, but I was thrilled with the finished results.
The foundations were laid in 1163. Today, Notre Dame is one of the world's finest examples of Gothic architecture. Sitting on the banks of the Seine, Notre Dame goes hand in hand with the history of Paris. It was ransacked by revolutionaries. Napoleon was crowned emperor here. But time has taken its toll on the Symphony of Stone. Over the years, efforts have been made to not only restore the site, but the sounds of Notre Dame. In 1990, the Archbishop of Paris decided Notre Dame would resume its historical role as a center for the development of sacred music. A force behind that center is a Canadian, a man by the name of Michel-Marc Gervais.
Well, actually, I arrived 6 years ago when I came to do an apprenticeship at the Paris Opera and to work with various conductors on orchestra conducting. Hoping that eventually I would be able to get a job, which I did. And here I am now, 6 years later, having worked actively as a conductor in Paris for 5 years. Notre Dame has had a long history. I mean, the cathedral has existed for 800 years, and there's always been music at Notre Dame. The musicians were singing text, and we're singing for people who come, and wherever they are in the cathedral, it's a big building, they are hearing, and the sound is echoing and bouncing off these stones, as it has been for 8 centuries. Here, we're not giving music, we're living music.
One of the things CHEK News has become known for is its people stories, sharing stories about unsung heroes and characters who live right here on Vancouver Island. One of those is Vinnie the Millionaire. In 1999, Harry Monyu heard about Vinnie. He had hit the jackpot in Zabelis, and Harry Monyu, an investigative reporter, used all of his investigative skills to track down Vinnie and tell his story, one of the most memorable for me.
Like I say, I just hate being bothered.
Vinnie Parker doesn't care much for city folk or the media.
That's a stupid question by a lot of...
This is the first and probably the last television interview he'll ever do. This summer, Vinnie won $1 million in the lottery. Vinnie bought the ticket in Port McNeill because there's no place to buy lottery tickets in Zabelis. Winning the money, he says, is more a curse than a blessing because his simple life, living in this small trailer, suddenly became a whole lot more complicated.
It's been a curse with reporters and people bugging me, which I told them before I didn't want to be bothered. And they keep hounding you, and you do, and I don't like it.
After he won the lotto, Vinnie became the talk of this former gold mining town. A local had once again struck it rich.
It was great. Everybody just couldn't believe it. They said, "Why, if anybody, it should have been him." I was the feeling of the entire town, I think.
Nowhere is Vinnie more popular than at the Zabelis RV park. There, he and his logging buddies share a common bond.
They're logging buddies that work in lousy weather with you and get hurt or get whatever. They got the same problems as everybody else, but they don't whine and snivel.
Locals call it the ghetto. On Thursday nights, they party, sometimes long and loud into the night. It's got them in trouble with local authorities. Vinnie had always said if he won the lotto, he'd build his own trailer park. But why not just stay in the trailer park where you are?
Rules, regulations. I guess you can't say bullshit, but I did.
After winning the $1 million, Vinnie Parker kept his promise to his buddies in the ghetto. He's moving them all to a trailer park on his new property, a place where there's no rules or regulations, where nobody can tell them what they can or cannot do. Also on the property he bought is a spot where locals can enjoy the new toys he's bought. And there's a new house which his son lives in. Vinnie loves cars, Chryslers, especially 1960s Barracudas. His favorite is this red one, and there's a black one parked back at the ghetto where Vinnie still spends most of his nights.
These guys showed up.
A place where he's obviously still most at home. A place where friendship means more than money. What advice would you give to anybody who did win $1 million?
That's their problem.
Well, could you imagine lifting up big tractor tires, pulling huge cable and chains, and lifting giant medicine balls? Well, that is all in a day's work for Victoria's strongman, Maddie Parks, who is now competing on the world stage.
The equipment used to train to compete as a strongman is somewhat barbaric. This is Maddie Parks, who has been training for competitions for years, and it all started in the gym.
I've always been a gym rat. I got my first weight set, I think, when I was about 8 years old. All through junior high and high school, I lifted in the weight clubs there, in the weight rooms there.
1,000-pound tractor tires, 435-pound Atlas stones, a 650-pound chain, all in a day's work to make it to the next level in strongman. Maddie's workout partner is Trevor Davis, and Trevor says it's great to watch Maddie make it to the World Strongman.
Not only are we happy for him as a friend and a fellow strongman and stuff like that, but it's kind of greedy on our part too, because when he goes away, he's training and competing against the world's strongest men. He comes back with all these knowledge gifts for us.
Maddie placed 4th at Canada's Strongman this year, and he wants to be the best in the country, and that takes a ton of work.
I'll hit anywhere from 4 or 5 gym sessions. If I do a 5th one, it'll be just a short hour. but the 4 that I hit will be, you know, a solid hour and a half and 2 hours, and then I'll do 1 to 2 event sessions on the weekend that run about 3 hours each.
And behind every strong man is a good woman.
I'm very lucky to have a wife as supportive as I do, because this is a lot of hours of training. And before we had this facility, it was a lot of equipment hanging out in my backyard and in my garage. And
to be able to train and compete at this level, you have to devour a lot of groceries.
The average male is 22 to 2,600, somewhere in there, so that's about double. Proteins somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 grams, and then, you know, carbs are about 500 as well, and then fat fills up the rest.
Now, Maddie leaves Friday for the North American Championships in Gatineau. Then it's off to World's Strongest Man in Charleston, West Virginia. And Maddie, I think you're ready.
Yeah, I think he's ready.
I think as we grow up, we all have a time where we have this misguided love. And this next story is about a goose that very much had a misguided love. You can't help but kind of laugh when you watch it.
It seems Bruce the goose has found his mate. But are they soulmates? The two make a pair like no other. Bruce the goose has fallen in love with this 80 horsepower motor. They say love is blind, but maybe there is some sort of physical attraction. Perhaps it's the engine's power or its noise that gets Bruce's motor revving.
Well, it's black, it's shiny, it's got a lot of similarities to a goose. Yes, he got a nice motor. I'm not sure if he lost his mate and this took the place or how it works.
The two are nearly inseparable, except when Mike Cook takes his boat out, but Bruce doesn't like it one bit, and he makes it known.
He doesn't go any more than 100 feet from that boat at any given time. He's always right here. Unless the boat takes off, he's here. He'll go wandering down the river looking for the boat once we head out skiing.
Mike and Jill first saw Bruce the goose keeping company with their engine in the winter.
We started feeding him, and he's called that home ever since. But his main attraction has been that 80-horse Merc on the back of the boat.
The relationship is now in its 5th month. Mike and Jill are pleased it seems to be working out for Bruce because he makes a pretty good pet and a guard goose.
And I couldn't train a dog to watch my boat the way he does. Yeah, I couldn't. I'd have to chain a dog onto this dock to get him to stay here, and this guy volunteers to do it for free.
They say birds of a feather flock together, but this relationship is exceptional. We don't know when Bruce plans to hold hands with his partner, but we do know this. His lady love is a 2-stroke.
Thank you so much for watching our favorites and watching CHEK TV all these years. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.